Welcome to the Wrap-Up, a VR live stream focused on keeping you up to date with the adoption of universal profiles and growth of the new creative economy. Join us as we uncover the fusion of technology, artistry, and innovation that's redefining how we create, share, and experience in this digital age. It's time to wrap it up. Welcome back, everybody, to the Wrap-Up. We've had a few weeks off. But we're back and better than ever. Today is May 3rd, the year is 2024. And before we dive into today's topics on YouTube, take a moment, click that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps a ton and ensures you don't miss any of our upcoming content. If you are on Twitter, because this is a little bit of a change today, we're actually live streaming directly into Twitter as well. Make sure to give KEEZ a follow so you can keep up with our content schedule. Remember, what you hear in this podcast is just our opinion and not professional financial advice. We're not experts. If you need specific advice, please ask someone who's a professional in that area. Listen at your own risk and always double check before making decisions based on what we talk about. Before we get to the first slide, let me give you a little bit of a heads up here. We're making a few changes to the wrap up. We are trying to be responsive to the needs of us. When I say us, I mean the greater community, but also us who are producing the show. I think the community wants to be more engaged in conversation. We've had some really great conversations in Twitter Spaces, and that's actually where the wrap up started as the Weekly Pink Pill, going way back into the early parts of 2021. So what we are looking to do now is actually rekindle that spirit a little bit. We had a great space on Friday last week. It was impromptu. We had it because, well, the wrap up, we couldn't get it off the ground. Rob's internet crashed. So we went to a Twitter space. We had a Spaces edition, and we had great conversation going. And then Fabian popped in and actually, let's say, elevated the conversation a little bit more. We had some new voices on stage. We figured, let's honor that and let's make sure that we provide a space for people to talk. So we're going to go actually hybrid a little bit. We're going to start here on the live stream, both in Twitter and on YouTube. We're going to run through some top stories. This segment will evolve as we kind of dial this thing in. We're going to try to be much more news specific. So we're going to go through the information channels that are giving you the news. Make sure that you have them. Make sure you have like an overview of what happened in the ecosystem this week. We're going to make a focus on metrics. So we're going to make sure that we get you some charts when it becomes appropriate to look at horoscope for traders, which is technical analysis. We'll try to include some of that. We'll definitely be looking at metrics for the ongoing adoption of the network. We'll revisit and probably reboot the network statistics around staking, daily active users, total transactions. So we can start to see when usage on a network begins to really take off, maybe even go parabolic. That's what we're all hoping for. And we will give you a light editorial section, probably around all of those topics, leading into a Twitter space that will immediately follow these shows, right? So we'll start here. We'll kind of set the table with some topics, give you a little bit of news, and then we're going to open a Twitter space immediately following the show. Right now it's scheduled for 12:35, which gives us about 30 minutes to run through what we have here. And then we're going to take it over to a Twitter space where anyone can enter their own opinion and continue the community conversation for maybe in the ballpark of 60 to 90 minutes. And then we'll close it down and we'll look to revisit that week over week and iterate quickly to make sure we're providing the most value to this community. Alt is giving the fist. I was saying the finger. I hope he's not giving me the finger.
Yeah, I can't give you the finger. They would blur it out on YouTube. So
how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, buddy. Yeah, I love the more streamlined approach that we're taking with this, and the vibes on the spaces. The last couple have been just amazing. I love the energy, the new faces, discovering what we've been building and creating over here, and just the vibes are up, man. So yeah, happy to get those going again.
All right. The one thing I will say is we started in spaces and then we ended up pivoting out of that format. The reason that we pivoted out of that format is Alt is wandering and he's actually half in a chair right now. Hey, Alt. The reason that we originally pivoted out of that format is people were not participating in the discussion, which honestly drove me bananas because I don't want to carry a discussion for that amount of time. I already do that enough. what has been a really refreshing change of pace is that more people have been willing to talk, people with really great opinions and different perspectives that I do not have, because I, unlike you, don't just, I, unlike some people, don't learn best or come up with great takes by just thinking about them for long periods of time. I like to ping pong. I like to bounce ideas off other people. It helps me understand things better. If you're one of those people, then I invite you up on stage because it helps me and maybe it'll help you. If you're one of the people that really has to think long and hard about coming up with a great take before giving it, then good. Think long and hard about it and then come up and share it, because you're going to help enlighten the entire community and bring more conversation to the table, which I think is a net gain for the entire ecosystem.
For sure. Yeah, it's all about that kind of collective consciousness discourse, right? Like kind of help expand each other's horizons. So it's all good stuff.
For shizzle. All right. We will not have the pinkest tweet today and a few of the other sections that you might be looking for. We're going to look to iterate on that and maybe drop those in their own shows so we can honor that information stream maybe a little bit more, because I think topic number one of today is we're going to talk information streams. Boom. Coming out of last Friday, there was a lot of movement on the timeline from Luxo, quote unquote, like the greater foundation, greater ecosystem. So let's throw that up, Rob. Let's see our 3 Twitter accounts that we have right now. We have on the far left, the traditional Luxo_IO account's got 64.4 thousand followers. We are given a new account in the middle this weekend, or I should say Monday. The Luxo Foundation account, the Foundation for the New Creative Economies, currently only has 198 followers, located in Zug, Switzerland. You can see the website right there. That I think you could look at as akin to like an Ethereum foundation. Again, they are custodying the foundation funding, looking to make decisions that are going to best foster the important infrastructure needed to um, keep the network healthy long term. And then to the far right, we've got the ERC725 account. That's the Universal Profiles account, which is very, very focused on delivering the technical updates around the Luxo network. And it's really following Fabian and his team of developers as they continue to build out this ecosystem. Okay, looking at that alt, Rob, let's bring that graphic back up for a second. Looking at that all the way to the far right, this is, I want you to think about this, because you probably can draw an analog to the Ethereum ecosystem. This is for everybody watching. In the middle, think Ethereum Foundation, right? Over to the right, think, and this is a very imperfect idea, but we know that founders have broken off from the Ethereum Foundation to found other, um, what do I want to say? Have broken off to found other products. I could make maybe some type of logical leap into thinking that account on the right is more like a consensus type entity. However, it's not a direct analog. I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying that's what it is, but I want you to look to the right and say, hey, this is part of the ecosystem that is continuing to build and build and build away from the foundation itself, right? The foundation is probably focused on other things. We'll get to those things in a minute. And the left side, like I said, again, let's focus on that because it frames our discussion today. The left side has been our traditional information stream. Does it need to evolve? That is the question I want in the back of your mind as we run through these updates today. Okay, now we can pull it down, Rob. You jumped the gun on me. You beat me because you're such a good player. You're just like,
Too quick. He's too quick.
all right, alts. You ready to jump in?
Let's do it, buddy.
Okay, so like I said, it was a busy week. Right away, we've been clamoring for more marketing. And what does Luxo hit us with right away? Well, they hit us with a partnership with Generation Infinity. Generation Infinity is teaming up with Luxo to bring you the latest on the first blockchain built for social creators and culture. We are created to provide comprehensive, we're excited to provide comprehensive content highlighting the Lux ecosystem moving forward. One thing that Generation Infinity is excellent at is bringing their partners into the conversation outside of the echo chambers that they might exist in. Everybody inside Luxo knows about Luxo, but how about the people outside of Luxo? Do they know about Luxo and the people building on Luxo? The answer is no. So that is why we need to get exposure there. And that's what Generation Infinity is focused on. King Solomon, who is the lead over there at Generation Infinity, has touched base with Sage over here at KEEZ, as well as many other ecosystem partners to kind of reach out, see how they can best do their job to bring more exposure to this ecosystem. Net benefit, net gain I love to see this. We've been clamoring for it, and here it is, friends.
Yeah, I'd love to see this. Yeah, shout out King Solomon and Generation Infinity. Like, this is what is really needed for a lot of this movement and growth, right? Is to get Luxo and these amazing standards and the tech and everything that we've been building and creating over here on the radars and minds and in front of eyes of people outside of this ecosystem, right? To be able to expand it, and Generation Infinity does a great job at doing just that. So it'll be great to see. I love this new kind of push, outside of our ecosystem to kind of expand our reach. I love it.
Yeah, it's an account to follow. If you're not following it already, please do so because they're going to continue to hit up people in our ecosystem to go out and advocate for Luxo in general. Yesterday, the team from Deliquified Labs was actually in a space, a Generation Infinity panel space, where they were talking about DeFi and what they're building here on Luxo. Great. I hope more builders on Luxo engage with Generation Infinity and get out there because it, again, net beneficial to the ecosystem.
Indeed, indeed.
In- Indubitably.
You know what else is a net benefit?
Hit me with it.
Adding another team member. We got one from Lucian here, managing director of the Luxo Foundation. I look forward to getting to know many of you and learn all about your projects built on Luxo. Stay tuned for details. Now, I don't know if you looked into Lucian's background, but it's pretty impressive.
Mm, yes, it is. Could you give me a couple of their connections alts for the people who are not paying attention?
Yeah, they've worked with Playground, Capco, and Kraken.
Oh, interesting. Now, this is not a guarantee that anything comes related with Kraken, but the fact that
Of
this
course.
person has worked with a major tier one exchange does lend us the ability to now make the logical leap that they tier ones are at least aware of Luxo, right? We can't say that they're going to list it. That would be very inappropriate of us and definitely not something that we should do right now. However, Lucian is tied to Kraken, has worked there, and is now the managing director of the Luxo Foundation. I say again, net gain,
I like it. I like the net gains.
net gains. It also, as a managing director, while Alts takes a walk around again,
I guess I want to stretch my legs today. Sorry.
yeah, as a again, this is something that I'm really pleased to see. This means that we've got yet another voice in the room that or we're introduced to one of the people who's a voice in the room making decisions for the greater health of the ecosystem. Remember, we introduced that account, the fancy account that is the Luxo account Foundation Twitter account. I can imagine that there will be more information stream there specifically related to projects to announcements like this next one that comes up from the Luxo_IO account. The Luxo Grants program is now live. So the Luxo grant program, I can't tell you for sure where the funds are coming from. However, I'm going to guess that they're actually being distributed through the foundation. Remember, we talked about information streams. Eventually, I imagine that this type of tweet comes directly from the foundation account and then is retweeted and or picked up by the Luxo_IO account, right? It would make sense because it would be a primary source of content. And then the Luxo_IO account, which represents the overall network and the network health, can then come and take it and redistribute it to a wider audience because it has a bigger reach. This grants program is something everyone's been looking for. The team actually did a Twitter space where we got to talk to Jonathan, Clara, Louis, Fawn, and Fabian about the program in general. They referred us to the website, to the frequently asked questions page, discussed a little bit about the scope of the project, their vision for the project or program, as in the Luxo Grants program, and actually explained it's going to come in waves. And I appreciate waves, right? Because not every wave
Yeah.
is your wave. Maybe the first one is, maybe the second one is, maybe the third one is. We can't all ride the same wave together. That's dangerous. But in each wave, we can have fun together. And I'll turn it over to you in a second. I want to make sure that I say one of the strengths of this wave program is they said they'd actually start to create community within each wave, within each grant wave, where they want projects to be highly collaborative, start to get to know each other, have the builders get to know each other. So there's a lot of support inside of the ecosystem. I love how this program is really embracing the idea that it takes a village, right? And the village has to be
Yeah.
interconnected.
I love that. Yeah, it's like, I mean, as we always say, we are Luxo, like we are the network effect, and this really leans into that from the builder side as well. So yeah, with it, I think with each wave, you kind of bring in more builders, more users, more use cases, more utility, and we kind of, because like I said, this whole journey that we're on, we don't quite know what form it's going to take over the next decade, right? So like, it's fun to kind of move that goalpost together, collectively. And yeah, I love to see the grant program. I know a lot of people are excited, and like you said, there's no rush. It's kind of on you, if you're a builder of what wave you might want to come in on. I believe the first round is 1 million, right? Is that correct?
That was right, $1 million.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a great way to start out the gates.
Mm. Yeah, it's a fair amount of money. You know, I think everyone would like more money, but I mean, let's be really realistic. I'm going to give you $1 billion. Like that's just not not realistic. I think 1 million is a lot of money and also a realistic target for the first wave. Because more composability will come with each project that starts to get built. The more smart contracts that are available, the more ideas that come out there, the more the builders can kind of leverage. Well, let's say stand on the shoulders of the people that came before them to reach higher heights. Yes, that's what I want to say. We wouldn't want to spend all the money in the first round.
Well, but also like as this ecosystem matures and grows and the price eventually catches up, right? Then yeah, then that dollar goes a lot further as well.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Mhm.
Yes, you see.
Okay.
$100 Lux though, we can throw out a lot of money at projects, right?
Yeah, for sure. So if you did not check out that Twitter space, I'm sure that you can find it on the Luxo account. You can go back, you can listen to it. They were really good about respecting people's time, so it did not drag on for long. What was really interesting is we got to hear from Jonathan and Clara, which we do not hear their voices very often. They are two powerhouses on the business development side. It was really great to kind of hear their voices and maybe get an insight into the type of people they are. They are all business friends, right? Like they are focused on
Yeah,
making
yeah,
sure
they're
that this network is a success. That's something that I took away from this.
yeah, it was a great space. Really enjoyed it. And the energy is great. They have no quit. They are just go, go, go. Keep making changes. Just like the ERC725 account, which they
Mhm.
recently integrated the Cookbook Dev AI chatbot into the docs. So you can ask the Cookbook Dev robot any questions about LSP standard proposals. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, try it yourself at docs.luxo.tech. This is a situation where most people are probably not headed there. But again, if we're talking about information silos, if you're a developer and you're following this account, that is really interesting. I want to know that there is an AI integration that's going to allow me to go in there and easily ask a question. And even they've got some nice integrations, which will, I mean, take we will back off on that one. I won't go too deep. Instead, there's some nice integrations with some tools that allow developers to get to playing around with the standards very, very quickly. This cookbook.dev integration, I believe, was spearheaded by Tanto DeFi. And Tanto, thank you, relentlessly getting after it. And I will also mention your buddy Amir, who is relentlessly shipping as well with that Candy Sap game. Things like this cookbook.dev integration do benefit the developers, but if you're just a curious community member and you're trying to understand better what is going on the technical side, this actually benefits you as well because you can go in there and ask simple questions and get some simple answers as well.
Yeah, for sure.
hmm So again, this is an information silo for developers. And there was another tweet that came out said the browser extension now integrates the LSP20 call verification standard natively. This means transactions are simpler to read in the block explorer when you use your own controller to make transactions and not the transaction relayer. There has been some gripes that it makes it when you click on transaction details, it's a little difficult to tell who's the originator of the transaction, how it's getting routed through these different elements, whether different elements of your profile, whether it be the key manager or the transaction relayer, to figure out kind of what's happening. LSP20, that call verification, is actually making it a little bit simpler for you to figure out what is going on. I think we all got used to, if you're blockchain native, this idea you just go to Etherscan and you peel apart the transaction very quickly and you can see kind of what's happening if you're interested. This brings a little bit more of that comfort to these super sleuths who like to get into the
Mhm.
Block Explorer.
Yeah. No, I love to see these continued updates getting shipped. This is great. Yeah, it's definitely going to be nice, and it will continue to evolve and just get easier to read. But yeah, you just got to remember, keep in mind, like that we are so early in a lot of this, right? Still, so we have a lot of room to grow and improve. And the difference, I think, is just the ceiling is so much higher than say an Etherscan, right?
Yeah. Yes, this is a social blockchain. Again, we might be looking at the Block Scout in that image, but there are other really interesting block explorers that are coming up. Transactions.app, which
Yeah.
is um, one that I will mention straight out the gate. And I saw that new one. What is that one, like Luxo City or something? In
Oh
Transaction
yeah,
City?
yeah. I
That's a
think so. I
neat
think
one
that's what's
too.
called. Yeah,
That's not
it's really
specific to
cool.
Luxo, but it's very social. And
Yeah, yeah. It's super social. It seems more gamified, like a South Park version with pixels. It's cool. I really dig it. It's a unique way to look at transactions.
yeah, the average person should be able to decode what is happening on the network if they want to. Not everyone will want to, but we want to make this type of stuff more accessible, right? We want to make it more accessible to the curious and not just the technical.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man, I'm gonna workshop that take. That's a
All
good one.
right. Well, next up, we got one from Safe. Thrilled to announce that Luxo is an official partner for SafeCon #2. So Luxo says the blockchain for the new creative economies, as we know. So that's going to be on May 23rd in our hometown, Berlin. So yeah,
Mm,
SafeCon is basically they're like the flagship for smart contract conferences, aiming to kind of bridge the gaps to accelerate the transition to smart contract based accounts, and solutions, new solutions for ownership of data and assets. So good
yeah,
stuff.
if you've never used a safe account, it's a multi-sig account that can be deployed. That is a smart contract based account that is placed on top of an EOA or multiple EOAs, provides an additional layer of security and some interesting things going on. Actually, it's just a multi-sig. It's not a smart contract account, but it's very important that we build these smart contract accounts or these smart accounts because it allows for the account abstraction that we're all looking for. And who has the best, I might be biased, but I'm going to call it the best um, smart account out there right now in Twitter, in the crypto ecosystem. It is the team at Luxo with Universal Profiles. So if Universal Profiles is being brought to the table at SafeCon, then these are the conversations we want to be a part of. So if we're an official partner there, that is a partnership I resonate with.
Yes, I love that one.
Mm-hmm. I was just pregnant pause. I was seeing if you were going to bring it up. All right. So we have
I'll let you.
launched a new podcast over here at KEEZ. It's called New Standards, where we try to talk about the new standards of the creative economy. In episode 1, we had the team at Year One on, and in episode 2, we have the team at Deliquified Labs. That's Heisenberger and his squad talking about their product Defolio as well as what they have been building. Now, it's taken a few months for them to put it together, but like most things, you can't bake a cake in 5 minutes unless you have some amazing skill. This takes time. You got to think it through. Heisenberger goes through his thought process behind what he's been building and also what he's got coming. This is actually a really nice episode. The focus of New Standards, if you haven't listened to it already, it is on all major podcasting platforms. It is to discuss how developers are entering this ecosystem, what their experiences are using these new standards, and what the greater vision is for this social chain as we discover it together. And Alt, we just did the interview for episode 3 yesterday with the one Mr. Stephen Horvath, the tech lead behind Universal Profiles at Luxo. That's a really interesting conversation. So do yourself a favor, find us on Apple Music, on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you listen, and subscribe so you are ready and you get that podcast when it comes out on May 14th.
Yes, please go give this a listen and a follow. And because we have, the first couple conversations that are out were really great, and we got more good stuff coming. It's a really unique perspective to really just sit down with devs and dive into their backgrounds, why they chose Luxo, the advantages of Luxo, kind of where they see their tech headed, and kind of what they're personally working on. It's just really great if you're a builder to get that insight for your own stuff, but even as just a user or a power user, like to be able to kind of understand that insight and where this stuff is going. Yeah, it's really I would say valuable is a good word. It's just really great to hear that insight from those builders.
Valuable. I like that.
Now,
It's
I want to take this moment too to give a shout out to the Luxo fam out there who's been supportive and welcoming to these new builders that have been showing up. Like that's the best thing we can do is when they show up, they're like, "Oh, this is a nice little budding ecosystem." And that's the thing I think that they identify is this big runway in a space that needs a lot of new things that hasn't, it's not super competitive and crowded like if you go to, some other chains out there because we are early, right? So there's definitely a lot of value. There's a big value proposition for those builders to come build. And the best thing we can do as a community is to welcome and support them.
Yeah, we should be welcoming and supporting pretty much everyone here. There's no need to cut people off at the knees. So if you're a builder, come to Luxo because the ground is fertile and there's many, many people willing to water your seeds. You like how I did that?
Yeah, that's great.
All right. So, one thing that we discussed in last Friday's Twitter space, like we said, we had a pretty lively one, were metrics. And that's something we want to bring more into the show. Now, we're not going to go deep into this right now, but we want to bring your attention to a very long thread from the Troy Harris. Troy was a former member over at Balancer Labs, very much into blockchain analytics. And Troy gives us a look into Luxo here. And he was telling us, caution, read this thread at your own risk. Why? Because it's so packed with knowledge. Troy was waving the flag around a base fee issue that we were having on Luxo. Basically, we were not burning Lux in accordance with how with what we would have expected relative to our implementation with EIP 1559. Now, this was not a software issue. This was an issue with coordination across our community, and also understanding that if we bring something over from the Ethereum space, problems that may not evidence there can sometimes evidence here due to different conditions in the market, in the gas market. So this is an excellent thread. Troy is very, very, very astute in his observations, and he believes that analytics are important. And I tend to agree with him, as do most people, I think, if you're a reasonable human being. We want to make sure that we are highlighting these types of builders because this is a builder in their own way. And we want to make sure that we elevate these metrics because as a community, if we are not watching each other's backs, then no one is watching our back. And that is the point here. We need to be paying attention. We need to be paying attention every time a change is made.
I thought I was checking to see if somebody was watching my
Yeah, I
back.
was wondering what you were doing. It was just a planet
Yeah.
back there.
Yeah. Alpha Pictoria is watching our back right now. Well, we got some other exciting news from the Luxo account here. The Enter Kid Super world, no matter where you are. This is a pretty interesting, cool concept. If you aren't aware, Kid Super is a really popular and emerging brand. He's a founder of a streetwear brand and creative studio. So they kind of have a philosophy that kind of revolves around creativity, inclusivity, and self-expression. So they're going to have a drop today at 3:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to happen before the Boys Club Net Gala kicks off.
Yeah, interesting here. This is I'm not super familiar with Kid Super, but call me old and white bearded, right? However, as it's been explained to me, Louis told us today, hey, let's show Kid Super what we are made of and support this drop. Why? Well, Louis also then responded with another tweet, says, hey, this could unlock features and perks in the future if you own one. I'm not sure what yet, but Louis Vuitton is very close with Kid Super, so I have no doubt an impression here can lead to great things. And then he links a Vogue business article. The impression element is what I want to underline. If we support as a community these really important brands, that it's not easy to get these partnerships. Now we'll investigate what that means in a second, but it's not easy to bring these people to our ecosystem. These people could choose to go anywhere.
Right.
If they're coming here, it's our job to support it. It's our job to rabidly support it. Why? Because we want people to feel like this is their home. Like we said, if people are willing to plant their seeds here, then let's water
I like that. I like that. That's
it.
like it. We can show out, show support, and make them feel welcome, in every way, shape, or form. Because ultimately, what we want them to stay here and continue building, and then that's a good look to other people that see that. Excuse me, and the other people that see that, and then they too say, hey, you know what? That's a nice budding ecosystem of a great community. I want to go drop something myself.
Yeah, for the fashion forward, he's got restless leg syndrome today.
Yeah, I
So
do.
for for the fashion forward, I think that this was really exciting, right? The second that they saw Kids Super, I saw lots of our community members kind of freaking out, like, "Oh my god, this is huge." Again, me, I was like, "I don't know who this is." I had to dig a little bit. Once I did, yeah, this is pretty big. This is a big one, right? This is something to be excited about. What comes of it? Don't know. But the fact that our name is being mentioned, by our name, I mean our network, Luxo, is being mentioned with Kids Super. Excellent. Very exciting.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's great. With each one of these new, brands and partnerships, or, people that are utilizing the Luxo chain, they have their own community and following. And in this case, Kid Super has a really big one. So yeah, ultimately that's just more eyes on Luxo, which is what we want.
Yes. So remember, we came off the start of the show talking about information. How does it get to us? What are the accounts that are dropping this information? So let me editorialize for a minute here, and maybe this takes us into our community space. So we've got this tweet from the Luxo.io account, came out on April 26th and said, or April 24th actually, and said, "Hey, something super is brewing for the Net Gala. You won't want to miss it. May 3rd, 2024. Stay tuned for details on how to participate virtually if you can't make it to NYC." Okay, I don't know anything about the Net Gala, and I'm not a member of Boys Club. If you are a member of Boys Club, you might have seen this and been really excited right out the gate. You're like, "Oh my god, I know what the Net Gala is, and Boys Club are my people. I'm super pumped." But I'm one of those people that go to the Luxo.io account because I'm old, right? And I'm like, there are some brands that I'm going to recognize. There are some organizations I'm going to recognize, but generally I'm looking at this like the news coming out of here is going to be important to me because what is the because? I don't know. It's going to be important to the network because no one owns Luxo, right? That's what we've been told. Luxo can't actually partner with anyone. So when I see this, it's like Boys Club Net Gala partnered with Luxo in the same way that before there was the SafeCon partner with Luxo. What does that mean? Who are we partnering with, right? Who pulled the trigger on the partner? My understanding is the foundation doesn't partner with anyone, do they? I don't know. That is kind of what I don't know. Pre-show, we had a pretty heated argument. I had to go cool off a little bit because I had Rob and Sage telling me, "Don't say anything stupid." They didn't actually say stupid, but they said effectively that to me because they thought I was going to go off on some crazy out there, probably monologue on why I don't like this. That's not actually it at all. I think this is great. I just would really appreciate if we could move into information silos where when this is released, it's explained a little bit more what it is. The Luxo.io account is talking about the Luxo network. It's going to talk about the people, the places, the culture, and the tech, right? So if something's going on at the Net Gala, can I just know how technically it impacts the blockchain? Because so many people are here following the Luxo.io account because they're actually interested in how the tech's integrated. If there's going to be a phygital there, tell me. Just tell me, spell it out. Like, don't make me look for it. Don't make me guess about it. Hype, I don't know. I don't know. This is my own personal opinion on this, Alts, and you tell me. You tell me if you agree. I feel like hype is a double-edged sword. Yeah, it works sometimes, but sometimes you end up cutting yourself with that bad boy pretty bad. And some brands that I've been exposed to have absolutely cut themselves off the knees by relying on hype and not just being very, very forthcoming with the information. Do you resonate with that, Alts?
Well, I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, just Web3 space in general, hype as a double-edged sword. Yeah, I mean, I've come to subscribe to under promise, over deliver always in every way, every way you can. That's because that's an easy way to move the needle. But yeah, I mean, like I I think it just takes a little bit more information digging, right? Like, I mean, I as well I haven't not been to a Net Gala. I assumed it was the digital version of a Met Gala, where it's like, and it's very prestigious, but like, it's a glamour fashion event with kind of a social gathering with music and culture. Yeah. So, but I mean, yeah, it would be great to also know more about the tech side of things with, how they might be utilizing the Luxo blockchain if they are. Same thing with the Kid Super Drop. I can't wait to get more details on what exactly that is and how they're going to be utilizing Luxo, because that's ultimately like, yeah, that's super interesting to the tech side of things, right?
Yeah. And keep in mind, these are our opinions, and I'm allowed to have an opinion, and you're allowed to disagree with me. And you're actually allowed to come on the second this ends onto a Twitter space and tell me how much you disagree with me if you want. That's not a problem. In fact, that makes for healthy discourse. If we can talk this out and actually disagree with one another, but not be disagreeable, it makes us stronger as a community. So let's revisit that first slide here, Rob. Waiting. Slide is loading. All right, perfect. When we started this, we looked at these new communication channels. Two were new, one is the same. I see the two in the middle with the same header as effectively serving the same purpose. The foundation is going to communicate how that they are um, fostering long-term health of the network, but also that foundation should be in control of maybe how information is coming out, how information is being disseminated to the greater mm, to the greater community because it has the largest reach. But if we're going to silo tech updates into this ERC725 account, maybe we need to silo some of the more creator economy stuff into its own account as well. Just because, you know, I think about this way. If I'm watching that network account and I'm a developer that's being onboarded to the ecosystem and I'm seeing stuff like Luxo's partnering with the Boys Club for the Net Gala, if I don't know what that is, if I'm not cultured, which I honestly will admit, sometimes I am not cultured, then that's confusing. I might actually not want to engage for no other reason than I don't understand what it is and I don't have the time for it. People are special in that way. I will admit that I am. However, if we can silo people into seeing what they want, right? Developers go to the Universal Profiles account, the creator economy, go over to some other account over there where it's very curated. So you know what's happening in the curated, in that curated feed where, if there's these cool partnerships and digital fashion things and new music drops and whatever, it's coming out in a feed that is like very dense and concentrated, then the highlights can be pulled back to that foundation account or really that Luxo IO account. And we can just kind of hit the highlights, the most important things, which will then always be driven back to how the network is actually being employed and why it's relevant to the network. I feel like, again, that's just my opinion. If you don't agree, and it's okay. And frankly, if you're in charge and you don't agree, then that's even better because you do whatever you want. This is just me as a random dude giving you my opinion, but I'm allowed to do it. I am allowed
Well,
to stink up the place in my opinion.
stink up the play. I mean, I think it's an interesting topic of discussion for sure. Because you got to think out as we grow, right? Like the amount of information and updates on both the tech and creative side. I think it's going to get. I mean, it's going to be hard to keep up. There's going to be so much updates over over the coming months and years, right? So I think, yeah, I think it's interesting to think about for sure.
All right. Well, are you ready to take this discussion over to a Twitter space?
Yeah, let's jam out with the community for a bit.
Okie dokie. Uh, Alt, you want to take us out? We've never done this
Yeah.
before, so we don't know how to end this.
We're winging it, yeah, but no, we appreciate you guys and gals who joined us live here, either on Twitter or on YouTube, as we're streaming to both today. So we appreciate you. Hope you have a wonderful Friday. Please hop on over to Twitter, the space we're about to fire up here shortly, and yeah, come hang out. If you have any thoughts or ideas or concerns, anything, raise your hand, hop on stage, chat it up with us, and everyone, have an amazing Friday and a wonderful weekend. Do what you do best. Stay pink.